but I'm very comfortable. I got a great house. I don't have any debt. I don't even have a car. Like I'm like chilling. So, what would be your advice for me, like as in terms of surrounding myself with more people who have a larger abundance of I guess possibilities when it comes to investing in stocks?
Yeah. Ooh, there's so many things.
There's a lot of scammers out here. So it is on us to like show a light in the direction of truth.
Missed out on $40 million.
I mean, I don't know how real we want to get up on this podcast because, I just have sometimes of a hard time, but for the sake of not gatekeeping. Hey everyone, I'm Morgan DeBaun, a passionate entrepreneur and life advisor. With the Journey podcast, you'll discover that success isn't about the destination, it's about the journey. I'm sharing stories of amazing people who've taken control of their lives. Join me on my own journey to discover the secret sauce behind reaching success with permission from no one else. Hey everybody, welcome back to The Journey with Morgan DeBaun. I'm excited for this episode because I have my good friend Teri here. We are going to talk about all things investing, stocks, and also just being a boss in today's society in a world in which people think that they want to be a full-time content creator, but it is in fact an incredibly difficult career path. Teri has been in this game for a long time. She's done everything from having memberships, courses, she's done live digital events. The most recent one you did was absolutely incredible. I watched it from afar. It's beautiful. And more importantly, she's one of very few, I would say, Black women who's been able to do this at scale in a way that has been also accretive to her lifestyle. And so we'll talk a little bit. Teri, where are you tuning in from today?
Puerto Rico.
Okay,
So
cool.
this is my place in Puerto Rico.
Okay, I think your team was like saying you were traveling, so I wasn't sure where you were, but yeah, you're home.
Yep, I'm always traveling. My mom and I did a trip recently to south of France and then to Rome and Italy. And then I came back and I was in Atlanta. So always traveling, but it's so much fun.
That's amazing. I mean, that's part of your life. So good. So for those people who aren't familiar with your platform or your brand, how would you describe it today?
We teach people how to trade stocks and options, but not just for trading's sake. We teach you so that you can lean into your and. So, what is that other fun thing you want to do in life? For me, it was travel. That's why the company's called Trade and Travel. But for you, it might be trade and take care of a family member, or trade and go on a cool trip or vacation, trade and pay for something like a house. So, we just help you actively invest so you can create income to do the things you love.
Amen. I started investing when I was 13 years old. My first stocks were like Starbucks, Panera, back in the day. I bought Netflix super early on. My dad had a major influence on my ability to invest. My parents gamified it for me, or even like savings from my grandma. Like my grandma gave me $100 every year, so for my birthday. So she was like, if you take, they give you $100. If you take the $50 and save it, great. If you take the $50 and invest it, we'll double it for you.
Oh, I
Right.
like your parents. And
They
I
were
like your grandmother giving you $100. My granny was like, we ain't got a boo.
I grew up with a family who did invest, and I remember my grandma getting checks in the mail from Wells Fargo, and me opening the mail for her, and her explaining like what the stocks that she had and what it meant, and then that just became a part of like what I was really interested in. And a lot of the common sense conversations that our generation grew up with was save, 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 save. But I actually think the core pathway to wealth is invest, 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 and as young as possible. So can you explain what compounding interest is and compounding, like this idea of just compounding in general, and how that is to all of our advantage?
Sure. And I'm actually going to give you guys a real example. So the other day I was trying to think like one day I want to, and this might be y'all gonna probably be like, what, Teri? But I was trying to think one day I want to be a billionaire. But before you get to billions, you got to get to like 100 million. So I was trying to think through like how long it would take to get to 100 million. And so I said, okay, well, if you start at 30 million, how long would it take to get to 100 million just with your cash alone? And
Mm-hmm.
I wrote it down. It would take 11 years.
That's not
And
that long, actually.
It's not. Like if I'm 40 right now, by 50, I could have 100,000. Isn't that crazy?
100 million,
It's not
yeah.
long.
But
But
is that assuming like an S&P 500 return?
yeah, well, okay, so let's talk about compounding first and then S&P. So, yes, right now the indexes, or the Dow, the S&P 500, if you invest in like an ETF, exchange traded fund of them, they're giving an average of 8 to 10% a year. Lately, they've been even better. Like this year's like 14%. There's been another year that was like 20 something percent. But let's say small, like, average 8 to 10%. So yes, this is like a reasonable, if you invest in an index, 10% sounds like a good, reasonable number, right? Now I like in individual stocks, but I also love indexes too. So 10% return. So let's say you started at 30 million. Y'all, I know these are big numbers, but we're talking about compounding. The next year, if you did 10% of that, now you're at like 33 million, right? And then you say, okay, 10% of that is 33.3. So you add that to the 33, and now you're at 36. And I actually went all the way down, and it literally would only take 10 years, because then we got into the 40s, and then 10% of that was 4 million. So you add that, got into the 50s, right? And that's compounding. You take a percentage and add that to your amount each year, and it starts to grow. And it starts growing exponentially because your numbers get bigger.
What's important about that is, we're obviously talking about big numbers in 30 million. I had a whole podcast that went viral because I said, when I get to $10 million in assets, your girl is Gucci, because the compounding interest and the compounding returns on $10 million is more than to cover my living expenses. And so everybody thought I was nuts. They were like, Morgan, like, that's just not realistic. Like, I'm like, it's absolutely realistic. Like,
It's absolutely realistic. And you just take a zero away from what we just did. If you start at 3 million, in 10 years, you probably get to 10 million, right? Or if you even go down some, let's take some zeros away. You can go from 300,000 to a million. So it's absolutely good.
that's my point. And I think, 30,000, yeah, 300,000 to a million. So it's like, I guess, why do you think people struggle with this concept so much? I know I'm getting real philosophical here, but I think it's really important, because to me, this is the biggest unlock. In fact, this might be my second book, because I think this is one of the biggest issues in our community. And for women, for Black people, is that we don't understand the power of the compounding.
Yeah. I think we have a couple thoughts that go through our head. One, we think, oh, that works for everybody else, but not us. So for whatever reason, if I come on here and tell you, no, the average has been 10% a year, the first thought is going to be fear. And they're going to say, well, not for me. The first year I get in, it's going to go down and I won't get the 10%. And they'll start thinking through all the excuses of why this actually isn't true. 10%, well, there was that one year where we were in a bear market, and oh my God, and we got to have an election coming up and we don't know what's in the debt. People are so good at thinking of all the reasons why not them, that
Mhm.
they get paralyzed to think why them, right? The positive side of it. I think the second part of it is we like comfort and safety. So I talked to one friend recently. She makes like 200K in her job. Her and her husband have saved up, and she told me, Terry, I have about 100K just sitting in my savings account,
In cash.
in cash, just sitting in my savings account.
Brutal.
Right? I see you like, that hurts. It
That
hurts to
hurts me.
hear. Even just putting it into a brokerage account or a high yield savings account would give you 5% on that. Like, you're missing about $5,000 a year just for your money being in the wrong account.
Yeah. And let me even tell you something we did recently, Terry. We have a nonprofit called Blavia.org, and we haven't been as active in allocating the funds that we had raised a couple years back. And we said, as a board, we're going to put our funds as the nonprofit in a high yield savings account. And we've made so much money from that. We actually went a step further. We took a little bit more risk than that. So high yield, some was high yield savings account, and I think we also wound up buying like CD equivalents,
Yes.
and we made like $50,000. It was incredible, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that's money that we can just like give to Black people, and we had been sitting on that, so I missed, like, the opportunity cost was like 100K.
Right. And then you start thinking about, well, what could we have done with 100K giving into the Black communities?
Yeah,
Like, that could have helped healthcare. That could have helped some people with
of
education. That could have
course.
been some scholarships we missed out on because we didn't invest well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that, I think that to me is the biggest opportunity for people. It's not the fear. It's the, what are you not, it's the opportunity. It's the hope. It's the, well, what could you be doing with what you're missing?
Yes, yes. And you're actually right on point. I'm proud of your board because with your foundation, some of the education I've recently gotten, I'm getting all this like new money, wealth knowledge. Is your foundation actually should be more risk focused.
Mhm.
Like that's a place where you can actually build a lot of wealth without it getting taxed. So if anyone is investing, it should definitely be your foundation. Now, some people, back to the fear, are going to say, but then what if you lose that money? Like you won't help people. But what if you gain? Then you could help so many more people and you wouldn't have to worry about the tax. And I mean, ask a CPA. This is all educational purposes
No,
only.
I mean,
But
I'm a financial advisor for a nonprofit, and she's like, "Yeah, this is like actually financially responsible, which is your responsibility as a board. Actually, it's financially irresponsible. At big companies, they have a role called a treasurer, which is the person who invests and manages the money that's on the balance sheet, so that they can maximize these cash and these assets. You know, in small businesses, you don't even know what that means.
yeah. Can you even imagine like if we got to a point where we could have endowments like big universities? Like for me, like my whole scholarship to MIT was from the endowment, you
Yeah,
know? Like
explain an endowment for people who don't understand.
it's just money that's been sitting in their account and it just makes more money.
Literally. So, like, let's look it up right now. What is the biggest endowment in the U.S.? My guess would be probably
Ooh,
Harvard. Who do we
let
think it
me
is?
Google. Let me see. Harvard. But I don't know. There's some big money at some of the other Ivies too. I could see some big money being in California or Princeton. Let me see.
And I also imagine Texas too, because they got the oil money. It looks
Yeah.
like Harvard has $49.4 billion in their endowment. That's
Girl.
crazy.
Girl.
University of Texas, 44 billion, Yale, 40 billion, Stanford, 36 billion with it.
Billion.
That's like more money than the freaking government. That's crazy.
That would be really interesting one day if the government was like, look, we need to borrow some money. We're just going to go ask all the schools to give us some money to pay down the debt.
They probably have bonds or something. Like they probably do have some sort of like systems for that. Okay, Howard University endowment. Now I don't know if Howard's got some B's. Let's see. Howard
Come on, Black
University.
people. I'm crossing my fingers for us. Come on.
Howard University. Well, first of all, the fact that it's hard to. It looks like by the end of this year they'll be at $1 billion. 1 billion.
Okay, billion. Okay, we got some bees. We getting there.
Robert Smith, where are you
He's like, I'm trying. I try. I help them with the scholarships. I'm doing my best.
Yeah, we got a long way to go, but I think, I think that the more that we talk about these things, the more that it becomes comfortable and normalized for people to think in this type of scale, and that is the power of investing. What are the other things that you talk about often with your members, with your community? Like, what are the other barriers that you think hold people back?
Yeah. Well, recently I started doing this like pyramid model of where your investing is because I think some people don't realize they're already investors.
Hmm.
So they feel like there's like this step they have to go over before they're an investor. And I'm like, actually, you have a retirement. So you are already an investor. If you have your money in a savings account, that one's making about 5% return right now. So,
Hmm.
well, high yield savings account, probably at a broker. You have to have the right account, right?
Yes.
The ones at our current banks are giving like 0.00 nothing.
Yeah,
So
that's like a
not
US
that one.
vibe, but a
But
Schwab,
let's just say,
yeah.
yes, high yield savings account giving 5%. Then you go to the next level, the indexes, which we discussed before, are making about 8 to 10%. And then you get to your individual stocks. And then that can be no ceiling. Someone
Yeah,
asked me recently, Terry, why do you invest in individual stocks? Because I need a place where there's no ceiling.
upside's
In
great.
every job I've had, there's been a ceiling. In every, you got to get a promotion to get this job. Even as a worker bee, your ceiling is your capacity of how many hours you can work.
Yes,
As a small business, there's still a cap. But in investing in stocks, there's no ceiling, which I
that's right.
love.
That's right.
Hmm.
And I mean, there's inherent risk in investing in stocks because it's in one, you're not diversified across a portfolio. So you are exposed potentially to more risk at the individual level. So it does require more effort, it does require more research. How do you recommend that people become more knowledgeable about investing in individual stocks?
Yeah. I mean, of course, shameless plug, I'm going to say Trade and
Please.
Travel has a course.
That's why I wanted to hear. Because people have been
um,
asking me for advice. And I'm like, this is not my ministry today. Let me call Terry.
Yes, exactly. Like we've been teaching people for the past 7 years since, well, 6 years, since 2018. And
Hmm.
we've taught over 40,000 people how to invest in stocks. And
So
we've been award winning, named number one on Teachable, gotten lots of different awards. So it's a good
number
place to
one
start.
unteachable, you all. That's an insane accomplishment.
They have, now I think they have like millions of courses, but anything in education, we were not only the best investing course, but we were the best course in the world on
Mm.
their platform for 3 years in a row.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Congratulations. That's
praise the Lord for that.
insane.
And so, of course, I would say start with education. And honestly, if you say, Terry, I can't afford education or I don't want to start with education, then that's like a bad mindset in general for anything new. You don't have to always do it on your own. And I know many of us type A's, we try to figure it out all by ourselves, and we have all these generations of people who've come before us.
Hmm.
So start with education first. And you might say, okay, I can't afford your course, it's fine. We have YouTube free videos, but just so that you know some things to look for. I want you to look at order types and start looking at stop losses. That's so that if you are invested in an individual stock and it falls, there are some ways for you to get out of the trade right away.
Hmm.
So even if you're a long-term investor, I want you to start implementing some stop losses on your trades so that if the market falls, you can get out and you can have some peace of mind with that.
And
So
a stop
first,
loss is basically when it hits a price that you set, it sells automatically.
yes, yes. So say for example, right now Meta just hit, what was it, like 580, something
Hmm.
like that, at the time of our recording, right? Just say it fell back to 500, but you wanted to keep your gains. You could
Yes.
put a stop loss in at 570.
Right.
And when it hit 570 on the way down, it would take you out of the trade and you get to keep your gains.
That's right.
That's something that I never knew about when I was first investing.
I don't have a lot of stop losses on my stocks. I've been a little bit broke. I bought Fed at Facebook at it was at $17 back in the day, and I think that one of the things about stocks is that you also, if you're gonna like hold and be a long term investor, you got to ride the ups and downs. Like, yes, to me, you could put the stop loss in, but like, what if it's just an arbitrary drop?
Well, you can get arbitrarily back in too,
But then you're still taxed on your gains.
but that's okay. You're taxed on your gains anyway.
Okay, so walk me through this because this is actually my limiting belief, perhaps, which is like
Mhm.
I have a hard time selling my stocks. Like I'm just like, no, like it's gonna work itself out because I don't want to deal with the taxes and then be like, oh well, I'm gonna now buy this stock again. So let's say we take Meta, I sell it at 500, and then 4 or 5 weeks later, I'm like, I think I need to go back in here. Now I've paid for the gains. What you're saying is well, now I'm starting at a new baseline, so I'm only paying for the incremental gains next level up.
No, you'll still pay for the gains that you had. Like you'll have to pay taxes on it, but you'll still be able to make more than if you had just stayed in it and waited for it to come back up. So, say for example, at the time it reached 500, you had made $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and then you sell.
Yeah.
Well, yes, you have to pay taxes on the 10,000, but then say it comes down to like 440. You
Mm-hmm.
get back in at 440 and now you make money again on the way up. So you're able to actually have more gain by being in and out than just if you had stayed in it the whole time.
Oh my God, I get it.
Does that make sense?
That makes complete sense. That's crazy.
So you're
Right.
kind of
By
missing
holding,
out.
you're not getting the gains and then going back in. You're just holding. You don't realize anything. It's unrealized.
No, no, no. It's still realized because you sold. So it's
Well,
still
I'm saying if I
realized.
didn't sell, like if just holding it,
Oh,
it's
yes, yes,
unrealized,
yes.
right? But if you sell, realize the gains and then go back in and keep going. Why didn't I think of that? I don't know why it was so hard for me.
This is one of the things too. So, for example, Meta recently went down to $90 like a couple
Mhm.
years ago.
Yep.
Everybody who just stayed in it, they had to wait until now to get back to even.
Yes.
But just imagine if you had sold, and I know some people are going to be like, "But Terry, that's timing the market. I don't know." Well, that the second thing you need to learn is how to read charts because
Oh
there
yeah.
are some ways to help you.
I
But
agree.
just the idea that, you could have sold at a higher amount when it came down, got back in, and then realized your profit again.
Yeah, damn. I probably lost a couple $1 million just sitting here on chocolate.
Sitting
Tesla,
here waiting.
yeah, Nvidia, Tesla. I mean, I got a couple of winners, that I've just held. But they fluctuate up and down. Nvidia, not so much, but Tesla, oh my God, like that was a roller coaster.
Also, people should know that they don't have to do, it's not all or nothing. So,
Hmm.
say for example, you had 100 shares of Tesla
Hmm.
and you wanted to do what I'm saying, like be more active with some of it, you could keep 50 of them as buy and hold. And
Right.
then when you see that Tesla's coming down or Tesla's going up and at an all-time high, sell some. And then when it
Mhm.
comes down, buy some more, with that other 50. You don't have to, it's not an all or nothing. You could do both.
Right, absolutely. I mean, I think that's the beauty of all things, right? It doesn't have to be as black and white. I'm not an active daily investor. It's more opportunistic. When I have time, I'll like do some research, or when I have a big kind of windfall of cash from a bonus or a brand deal, it's like, okay, cool. How do we want to allocate this? But I think that it's so funny. Like as I'm talking to you, I'm like, I should probably take your course just as like a refresher, you know?
Yeah. And we're updating it too. So, yeah, by the time you're in it, you'll be like, oh, this is nice. Because we got a curriculum specialist. I came from education world. So I'm like, okay, curriculum specialist, come in here, audit us, let's redo it. So we're on like version 3.
That's fantastic. Now, what is a commodity?
Okay. So when I think about commodities, I'm thinking about futures trading. So I'm thinking about like soy, corn, those kind of assets. And they started out actually in a legit market. And the futures market was a place where somebody was like, say, a farmer, and they would say, I'm about to plant all this corn, but I need money now. So will you give me money based on the crop in the future? And so
Mm,
that's how the futures market started. And then on the futures market, and it's mainly based on Chicago, they trade futures market. I mean, it's all over the world, but Chicago's a big place for this.
right.
They then trade the commodities. One thing that's interesting in futures market is if you actually buy futures and you're like trading options and it expires, you will get the thing delivered to your house. So you will get like
What?
all of the barrels of oil delivered. You will get on
Okay.
a train. So you got to be real careful with it. But that's what I know of it. I'm not a futures trader, but that's what I know of.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I just always hear people say, it's like a very like kind of bro-ish thing that, I trade commodities. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, I would stick with my Starbucks stock.
The coolest thing about it though is they can leverage. So
Hmm.
for every move on in the futures market, they can actually get like $2 per 1 point move versus or $12 per 1 point move. So I think the bros talk about it because they feel sophisticated, but also because they can potentially make more money.
Make a lot more money. It's more risk, but it's also more complicated, So I think, and it just requires a lot of domain expertise. I mean, you got to really study that stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, you study with anything. So I
Great.
think it's one of those like, okay, we master stocks first because those are companies. Then maybe we go a little higher, go to options because we've gotten down the stocks and now we can actually do bundles and contracts of those stocks, which is options trading. And
Yes.
then from options, you say, okay, well now I want to learn something new. Let's try futures. So I think it's just one of those stair step. You every time you learn something new, you go to the next.
That's right. Now, do you have any gold?
I do not.
Don't you feel like gold's been trending a lot lately?
It has. I mean, it's always trending. Like
Yeah,
people are always watching gold and silver.
right.
But I think it had reached some new levels.
It did. It's something that made all the people start saying, "You gotta go get a book of gold," and I'm like, "Okay, what are we talking about, guys?"
One
But
thing
I
I
understand
will
it.
I move too much to have real gold too. Some people are like, you should have a chest of gold.
Literally.
I'm like, who gonna carry that on the plane? Like, what?
Yeah, no, literally,
it,
people have chests of gold. It's crazy.
it is a good thing to trade though.
Yeah.
Or have in your portfolio. One thing I want to get back to though is you said a comment and you said something to the point of, well, I don't trade daily. I just trade like when something big happens.
Yes.
And one thing I would just switch the wording of that.
Hmm.
Oftentimes people are not trading, but they're actually watching the market anyway to see what their stocks are doing.
Yeah.
So if you're watching the market anyway and you see an opportunity, then just be willing to move your things around.
Yeah. And I
Um,
will occasionally, like, I have Palo Alto networks. And there was basically like an arbitrary like dip because of some press effectively.
yes.
And I was like, oh, this is bullshit. So I just bought a bunch more, you know?
Exactly. Like CrowdStrike, where they had the big drop
Exactly.
because of an issue. Who else had something big recently? Adobe had
Oh
a
yeah,
big drop
yeah,
after earnings, and it was crazy. Adobe's still a great company. So just be willing, since you're looking at it anyway,
yeah,
now that you know a little bit more about the like active, like I encourage everybody, you could be a swing trader. That doesn't
mhm.
mean you need to do it daily, but when you see an opportunity, be willing.
Yeah. I'm an opportunity grabber. I don't sell. Like the selling is not what I do often, as I said, but I will
Mhm.
buy. I'll be like, oh, let me go move $50,000 real quick. Hold up. So
You
yeah,
can make some money though. So when you're thinking about income, you only do it from your business. Like you would never say like, I need to go, like I have this really big dream and I'm trying to raise money for it. Let me use some of my stock. You would never sell it like that?
I am acknowledging publicly that I don't operate this way, but I could. Like, I mean, I don't know how real we want to get up on this podcast because I just have sometimes have a hard time. But for the sake of not gatekeeping, like I have over $1 million in my portfolio, just like not even my investment income and all that stuff, just straight
Yeah.
up, stocks, etc. And it's such a good number that I'm like, and it's going up and to the right. It's been a good year. I invest a lot in tech stocks, obviously given my background and my domain. And so I think that it's such a juicy number already that my brain is like, we did, like, like it's gonna work itself out. And so I think that I have to surround myself with more people like you and other people who are like, yeah, but this could be 10 million. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that's just not my network. Like when I talk about stocks, like all my friends look at me and they're just like, what the fuck are you talking about, Morgan? Like I am an anomaly even amongst my peers of very successful entrepreneurs because a lot of people, it's intimidating. They haven't done it. Da, 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 and so I think part of the reason why we're even having this conversation is because I am in a phase where I'm like, okay, I'm looking at the next 10 years of my life. Blavity was 10 years old this year and I've
Congratulations.
accomplished a lot of things. Thank you. I've got a lot of Blavity is stable, Afrotech is stable. Like I've spent a lot more time investing in myself. And it's like, what does that mean? What does another 10 years look like? But I'm very comfortable. I got a great house. I don't have any debt. I don't even have a car. Like I'm like chilling. So I think I think that there's a pathway, but I guess what would be your advice for me? Like as in terms of surrounding myself with more people who have a larger abundance of I guess possibilities when it comes to investing in stocks.
Yeah. Ooh, there's so many things. Part of me, as you were talking, was trying to think through like there's this lazy. Okay, this you are not lazy. So
No,
this is gonna come off
okay.
weird, but I'll
I
say
have
it.
thick skin.
There's an interesting, instead of lazy, we'll say relaxedness that comes to us when we feel like we've reached a goal.
Yeah.
And we don't push harder. We just kind of say, well, this is the status quo. It's been working. Let's keep doing it this way. And
Yeah.
I also reached that. And I had to realize, okay, Terry, allow yourself to plateau for a little bit. You've been working so hard. Like it's okay to take a beat and
Mhm.
plateau. But now there's a time where we got to go to the next level. And it sounds like for you, like you've gotten to that million, and that probably was a goal at one point. Like, let me just get $1 million in my portfolio account.
Yeah.
And so now that you're there, you're like, and this may not be you, but for some people, they would get so scared to lose the million that they wouldn't want to risk anything else.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they'd be like,
Especially now that I took money out. I took money out along the way, like when I bought my house and did the down payment. So I built it all back up even from buying my house 4 years ago to get back up to this level. So I'm like, I mean, I don't need anything else. I think that's part of it. I'm like, I'm not motivated by money. I'm motivated by my lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes, and
I mean, I have a juicy lifestyle, like, you
yes,
know, but
yes, you do. It could be better.
I
There
mean,
is
it could be
more. In my head, so in my head, so the thing is, I feel like you're right. There is some exposure to just different people. So,
yeah.
for example, for me, you're like, oh man, I got $1 million in my account. And I'm like, my money made $1 million for me, like in the first 3 months of the year.
Talk nice to me. Let's go.
Um,
But this is the stuff that we don't talk about. Like even I have Whitney Houston syndrome. You guys can't see it, but my upper lip is sweating because I'm like, this is like way too vulnerable for. But it's important that I share these things because I will
yeah.
never be able to receive the mental guidance to be able to get out of it.
Yeah. So we'll talk numbers. I'll be vulnerable too. How about that? We'll both be vulnerable. So this year so far, my cash alone, me not working at all, has made about $4.5 million. And that's with me doing no business, no work, go live your life, enjoy yourself, and just investments have made 4.5. And of that, about 3 million so far, actually no. Of that, about 3.8 million of it I've realized. So that means that like no matter what happens to the market, no matter what happens in elections, no matter if the market comes down, that's my money for this year,
Wow.
without any kind of working at all. So there are levels to it. Like, yes, great, you hit $1 million, but it can do more.
Mm,
And your $1 million is not secure at this time because if something happens to the market, say something like, Israel and Iran do something crazy, we go into war and there's a big fall, you no longer have 1 million anymore.
no.
So we got to get you to a place where you have a consistent million plus,
Mm.
right?
Hmm.
And that doesn't mean like, oh, your lifestyle is not great. It is, but you can still do better.
Hmm.
And like we said, like there is that opportunity cost of you could serve more people if you were able to get it to work better.
Hmm.
And I'm talking to the choir because even my wealth manager yesterday, we had a hard heart to heart
Hmm.
because I have a significant amount of my portfolio in cash right now and it's making 5%. But she's like, Teri, you're on this like $1 billion goal and you said you needed
Not
10%,
enough,
but
but
your cash is only making 5%.
yeah.
So we got to put more money to work because you're scared. And I honestly have been scared because I've been thinking that we're going to go through this recession that never came. And then I was like, well, we're at all time highs right now. We can't stay at all time highs this long.
Yes.
So
And then
I'm
it keeps
investing.
going. It's the weirdest thing.
Yes. But then at the same time, I'm missing out. Like all this growth that's happened over the year, even like the thing I kick myself about is like Nvidia,
Hmm.
it's been going up and down. It went down to $90. I kept saying, okay, as soon as it goes under 100, I'm getting it. I wanted to buy 10,000 contracts, which means that for every dollar that the stock price moved, I'd make $1 million. I did not because I was afraid. Missed out on $40 million, right? So
Stop
that
it.
kind of stuff.
Oh my goodness. That's crazy. But like, I think that is what I always tell myself. Like when I'm doing my own self work and my own like mindset work, I always tell myself I'm my biggest asset and my biggest limitation. Like it is not the world, it is not the market, it is not Blavity, it is not my employees. It is literally me.
Hmm.
And so the more that I invest in myself, the more that I invest in my own ability to get to the next level mentally, even when I'm so comfortable. That's part of it, Terry. I've never been happier. I've never been more peaceful. I've never been more joyful. So deeply content that I'm like, if nothing changed, I would die a happy woman.
Yes.
So I think when I reach to that level of contentment, then it is a little bit difficult to kind of get me out from that.
Hmm. But what about when new seasons come? So what about when your son is going to college
Mhm.
and you want to pay for that without your own, like pay for that out of your investing
Yeah,
money? And what about, like there's more.
There is more. There's definitely more. And I have an abundance mindset about money too. So I'm always like, yeah, well, then we'll just go make $1 million. We'll go write another book. But I think because of that energy, because I'm kind of like, it's going to work itself out. Like, we got it. Like, we want to go do something. We want to fly over here. We'll just do it. Like, it's fine. I think that it's actually an excuse. It's actually an excuse that I have made for myself to not push myself out of my comfort zone as a defense mechanism because I was outside of my comfort zone for most of my 20s. And so I was in a season of recovery. Part of moving to Nashville from LA, I mean, you know this, you've heard me speak before, but like part of moving from the coast to Nashville was so that I could be in a season of recovery and self-investment. And now that I had the baby and it's like he's about to be one, it's like, okay, cool. I've got some room now to spend some more time back on this next level and envisioning this next level for myself. And I think stocks is part of that because it's something I've been doing for so long, but I have not mastered my personal best.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know?
And there is, and I thank you for sharing that because I feel like a lot of us get that way when we're feeling content, and then we're
Mm-hmm.
like, I am content right here. But I think the underlying mental part of that is we feel like more money has to come with more work. So, for
Right.
example, you were like, oh, when I want something, I'll just go do it. But if your money was working for you, you wouldn't have to go do it. It would
Mm.
be there.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's
I
it.
mean, I
That's a
say all these things, but I got to think through that too, because with
No, but we all do at different levels. We all have to be pushed. Like, I hope that whoever's listening to this is like, y'all got real first world problems. And we do. That's why you listen to this podcast, is because we're all on our own journey and like it's never finished. And like, I hope that we don't get a lot of haters in the comments because my point in sharing this, and if we do, whatever, fuck them. But like, my point in sharing this is so that people can understand that at each level there's a new thing that's required of you. And just like Terry is saying, if she's on a pathway to be a billionaire, then she's got to move differently than how she's moving now, even though how she's moving now is in the top 1% of the 1% of the 1% of excellence.
yeah. And for me, my thing is, honestly, I'm not motivated by money either, which is interesting because people would be like, "What? You're not?"
No,
No,
most incredibly wealthy people are not.
I'm not. But to your point, I know when I'm giving my best.
Yes.
And I like, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, give your best in all things as if working for God and not for man. And for
Yes.
me, like in this world, I gamify it too. And I'm like, I could do better. I think that I see an opportunity. To me, it's like this problem solving thing. I'm like, I read this chart. I feel like this is a good opportunity. Let me see if I got it right.
Yeah.
And that gets exciting and fun. And then when I get to help other people, I think that's where the real ministry comes in. So,
That's
like
right.
with my foundation, we did this Disney investment this year, and it made about $700,000. So
Mm-hmm.
now I get to think through, okay, what do I'm gonna, how do I help people with 700,000?
It's a lot
Like
of
I
money.
can give
Yeah.
it, yeah. How do you give it away?
Yeah.
And that's the fun part. So, yes, these are first world problems, but I think those that can, we got to push ourselves because we can do even better and we can do even more. And it's not our responsibility though, because I think some people will come in and say, "Well, now that you have so much, you should give everything away for
No,
free."
no, no.
No, Elon doesn't do that. He's a billionaire, but he's not giving Teslas for free.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, we're not getting iPhones for free. They give up going up every year, even though the people at that company are billionaires, right?
Right.
So our information is not for free, our work is not for free, but we can keep pushing ourselves because we know that we have capacity to help so many more people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. How do you surround yourself with more inspiration? What tribes of people are you in from a investment perspective? I know that like Tiffany Budgetnista. I mean, there's like a cohort of Black women that have done incredibly well in this career path of being a teacher and building these communities and help bringing us along the way. But in your field of investing, where do you turn? Do you go to like Warren Buffett's conference every year? Like, are you like in that world or where are you?
Honestly, I need to do better. Just vulnerable. I need to do better. But for example, I'm going to a Goldman Sachs conference next week,
Mm-hmm.
and they have all their Black clients. Like I'm a Goldman Sachs client,
Mm-hmm.
so they have all their Black clients coming together.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really excited about that to meet some more people at this level. I'm
Mm-hmm.
realizing that a lot of the people at this level are not talking about it.
No.
So part of me feels like, man, maybe I should shut up too. Because it's, for safety reasons and all the things.
Yeah.
But then I'm realizing that I think this is a blessing God gave me so I can help people dream bigger. And
Yeah.
if I
Let's
don't
get
talk
safe.
about it, huh?
Let's get security if you need it.
Yes, this is true. And we can pay for that now.
Yes. Let's get security.
um, but I'm excited about the Goldman thing, and then now I'm starting to seek out people individually.
Okay.
So, for example, I've heard about Fawn. Is it Fawn Rivers?
On Weaver. Yeah, I was just with her
Weaver.
yesterday. Mm-hmm.
Yes, please tell her about me because I would love to just have a conversation with her. I'm thinking it's now more intentional reach outs one on one
Mm-hmm.
to just learn, what are you doing, what are you doing. So for me
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, now we're building portfolios of homes, now we are executive producing, I am executive producing a movie. Like,
Yes.
that's a new kind of investment for me, but
Yes.
I think it could be really cool. So just learning more, but they're now intentional reach outs. I'm gonna actually put this into the wind. There's another lady I want to meet.
Who?
She's the founder of, not the founder, but the CEO of a football team. Do you know her?
A CEO of a football, like an actual football team or a
Yes, I
soccer?
think she's the president. I think she's a black woman.
I'm not familiar with her, but I'm sure I could reach her.
Man, if you find her, please, I would love to just have a talk.
Yeah,
So,
I'm happy to. And Fawn, I mean, that's a text away. So I'm happy to connect you with Fawn. But even that, like, those are operators that are reaching new levels at the operation level. And Fawn is an incredible investor. I mean, she's been able to go, we did a podcast episode. So by the time this comes out, people have watched it. But she talks about in that episode how a lot of incredibly wealthy people actually go up and down in their wealth quite a bit, just like an Elon Musk has, where you got to be willing to risk it all to make it all back to get up to the next level sometimes, because the
yes,
risk at the $1 billion level is significant, right? So you got to be able to weather that storm and have a glorious vision to get there. And I think she's done an incredible job painting that vision for herself. I also think that there's a lot of quiet people, to your point. When I went to Martha's Vineyard in August, I was like, who are all of y'all? And I met like a family that owns like 70 McDonald's, right? And I'm like, I'm doing quick math. I'm like, just quick math. Oh, y'all got a lot, or like people who have our supplier procurement diversity kind of category. This is the older generation. They've got a lot of quiet money, but it's very deep. And they had like a deal with Coca-Cola where they were one of the suppliers for Coca-Cola, and they've had that deal forever. It's such a huge business. You'll probably meet a lot of them at Goldman Sachs. I met a lot of these people at the JP Morgan has like an equivalent kind of
nice.
cohort that they bring together. And I met a lot of people through that, but none of them were like self-made with like, I was the youngest by far, I would say.
Mm-hmm,
And that
mm-hmm.
was challenging, you know?
Yeah.
So
Honestly, I think we might have to make this table for ourselves because I
yeah,
also don't know who they all are. I know some of them might be athletes that have started to invest their wealth. Some of them may be business owners. Some of them have probably got it from a trust fund. Like, I've been looking at all the Forbes lists and things like that to just see who is who.
yeah, but a lot of people,
Um,
according to Forbes, they don't want to be on those lists.
right, exactly.
I wouldn't want to be on that list.
So I do. I want to, like, I've been trying to think through new achievements that I can go strive for. So I'm like,
Well,
let
could
me
you
be
just be
on
on
the
the
list.
list without being on the list? Be like, well, I know where I rank amongst y'all people, or do you want to be known for it?
I think I want to be known for it.
Okay.
Unfortunately, but fortunately, because it maybe that's a little bit of a motivator for me. Like, I want to make the list.
All right. Then let's go get the list now. Incredible, absolutely incredible. What else do you think somebody listening to this is okay? Let's bring it back down to earth just a little. So for for that person who's listening to this is like, I'm feeling inspired. The first thing they should do is go get your course so that they can learn more. And once they buy the course, just walk me through like what are the first types of like things that you guys talk through? What are the first types of fundamental things that they learn?
They'll first learn how to pick the right stocks.
Okay.
So we're looking for healthy companies, not things that are, I don't do penny stocks. Things that you would invest in long term would probably be investing in ourselves too.
Hmm.
Then you're going to think about, how do I pick the right price to get in? because as swing traders, and we're people trying to make income from trading, you need to actually invest in it at the right price versus just any time.
Hmm.
Since we're not long-term investors, we need to make sure that we're going to make a profit. And we do that looking at charts. So they'll learn how to read charts to find, and someone's going to say, well, Terry, you can't time the market. Everyone always, we waiting for that to be in the comments. I understand. Um,
Average person can't time the market, but we're not talking.
but the thing is, you can have a higher probability of success. So looking at a chart, just like looking at any kind of data or research or history in any field, will help you have a better probability of success. So we're
Right.
gonna learn how to do that.
Yeah.
Then we'll learn how to protect our risk.
Hmm.
Once you make the trade, you can't, like, there's going to be times where you will lose, and that's okay, as long as you learn how to protect your risk so that when you do lose, you don't lose a lot.
Hmm.
So we'll look at risk management. Then
Hmm.
we look at putting that all into a trading plan to say, okay, how do I do this on a more consistent basis? And I have 7 steps that I do every time I take a trade.
Hmm.
And then after that, some bonuses that you'll learn is you can also make money when the market is falling, and that's
Hmm.
called short selling. So we'll look at that. And then we'll also look at gaps and Globex. So when you're looking at these charts, you start seeing that there's some gaps overnight, and you can actually use those to make money.
Hmm.
So just learning that in your toolkit will just help you be a better trader no matter what.
Mm. Incredible. Well, I'm going to take your course, so look out
Thank
for me
you.
in the chat.
Sounds good. And I don't want people to think we're on this podcast just selling the course.
No,
No,
I
please.
genuinely mean this. It's okay though. I mean, who cares? Like, I want people to listen to this podcast and find resources. I mean, that's why people, and I trust you. I trust that you are genuine. I trust that you are being honest. I trust that you are accurate and that you are an expert. There's a lot of scammers out here. So it is on us to show a light in the direction of truth.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
It's okay. Okay, so great. So I'm going to take the course, and you know what, you guys, I'm going to bring you guys along with me as I take it, and um, maybe I'm just going to set a goal for myself on how much I want to make. Is it like, do you think what would be the right metric of success? Like income?
Yes, definitely be income. And my goal for you would be to make 1% of your, like whatever you're trading, make 1% of that on a regular basis. I know you're going to knock it out the park. You're going to be like, girl, please, I'm making 8, 10%, whatever.
Wait, what
But
on a regular
like,
basis would be like a week, a month, or what is that? What would be a time frame?
so honestly, that part will be up to you. You
Okay.
said that you would probably be more of a swing trader. So it would just be whenever you're making your trade that you realize at least 1%.
Got it. So if I say I'm going to put 100K here, then 1% is $10,000.
Yes. So I
Got it.
want to see you make $10,000 and then do that consistently.
Mm.
And if you do that 8 times, well, now you're beating the overall market.
Hmm.
And if you do it more than 8 times, well, now you're up there. I'm like, okay, boy. And what you'll start seeing is like, oh, now that I'm getting the hang of this, I'm actually making 2%. I'm making 3%.
Yeah.
I'm making even more.
Right.
And that's when your money starts to grow versus just the sitting in
Sitting
a
in this. So if I say, okay, 100K, 1%, that's 10. You do it, once a month. So that's $120,000. So I'm basically saying 2x within a year.
Yeah. And you can do that.
Ambitious.
Hmm.
Ambitious. I like it.
I can't wait. I just can't even wait. I'm so excited for this. It's going to be, I will tell you the truth, it'll be easier for you to do it when you learn options.
Okay.
So if you're in the full course, we do stocks first and then we do options
Yeah.
trading.
Yeah.
But even just starting out with stocks, I think that you'll start seeing like you're like, wait, I'm making something. And then put a goal on it, like something that you've been wanting to do but you haven't done yet. Say that you're going to pay for that with your investments.
Mm.
So, is there something you've been wanting to do lately?
No, I do everything I want to do. That's
No, is a good thing. Um,
It's
uh,
really everything I want to do.
what about, okay, let me give you, I think I need to just give you some new things to think about. So do you like
Yeah,
yachts? What about like a Ritz-Carlton yacht with you and your family?
yeah. I think that would be one thing I'd want to do. But I also like literally could just do it. But I wouldn't. Like it would be hard for me mentally to say, you know what, let's just spend $50,000 for a week on a yacht in the Mediterranean and like just have everybody with us and just chill.
Well, there you go. Okay, so you can say, okay, we're gonna try to go for 50,000. When we
Yeah,
get there, we're gonna take this yacht.
yeah,
Or is there something else that you've been like hard pressed to say yes to? But I mean, I know you love Costa Rica.
yeah. But I'd be going.
I know,
And I take
Morgan.
everybody with
Morgan,
me.
the point is not that you can do it. All of us can do it, but the point is that your money is going to pay for it, not
You're
you.
right. You're right. You're right. I got to think about it because it has to be something genuine. It has to be something where I literally would be like, okay, girl, like you would never do this. Like, for example, okay, I got one. Like, literally redo my closet. Like, have someone, like, every single item, and just be like, okay, we're going to go in. Like, one of my just go in and just everything matches. Like, everything is, that's going to cost $20,000, $30,000, something like that. And then everything is tailored, especially post mom bod, had a lot of ups and downs. That would probably be something that would make me feel really great.
Okay, let's do it. So we're doing $30,000 for you to get your closet redone and all your clothes tailored.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm holding you accountable. We said it here. So
And you
thirty
see me
thousand,
pop off. And
and
it's
your stocks are going to pay for it.
okay.
This
All
is
right.
going to be big for you because one, you've never sold before.
Not really.
So like actually seeing like how quickly you can do this because you're selling. So that's like a hurdle you'll be
I don't
getting
think it's gonna
over.
be that hard. Cause I like once I commit to something, I buy but I don't sell. But I'm like, we can sell this thing. Let's go. Let's keep it
Okay.
going. So I'm with it. Let's do it. I'm excited.
I'm so excited for you. I just feel like you're about to crush it. You're gonna be like, so Terry, within 5 months I already doubled, and I just want to tell you thank you because I got like a whole new wardrobe in three
Yes,
different places.
yes, yes. And we're on a yacht in the Mediterranean.
Yes.
So y'all, if you guys want to follow this journey, I'll probably share it on my Patreon, which I just started. My Work Smart, I moved Work Smart to Patreon just so that it's easier. Like I was tired of Circle and Kajabi and all the things. I'm like, I need a simpler life. Where is your community? Is it in Teachable?
Actually, we stopped our community
Oh,
and
you did.
we partnered with the Budgetnista, and so now they're doing an investing club,
Awesome.
and they're using our course.
Yep.
So yes, we do have the investing club, but it's run by the Budgetnistas team, which I'm
Right.
so thankful for.
I
I
love that.
wanted I wanted a course where it was self study, people could buy it, learn everything through the course, and then if they did need some extra accountability, then they can go to the investing club.
But I kind of agree with that model. The community management is challenging. So I like that model, and I think smart, very smart. We'll just leave it at that.
I will say personally, like if we just talk about some personal lessons for a second, like I'm putting myself first too, and I'm realizing that I want the freedom in my life not to have to fulfill a like a purchase. Like if someone purchased in the past, then we had to keep fulfilling because we had promised that we would give all these coaching calls. And
Right.
then if they purchased in the past, we told them like you can buy 12 months of a membership. So
Yeah.
now for a year we're on the hook. For my life, I don't know where I'm going next, but I think right now I'm in a season where I want you to be able to access everything I know, but just buy it and go
Yeah.
versus me still being on the hook.
Accountable. Yeah. I think that's right. And similar, same reason why I stopped Circle as well. Like Patreon is better because I do the podcast weekly. So there's always, this is a part of my value exchange. And it's kind of, that's it. Plus, I do a monthly call, but that's just genuinely just content for the podcast as well. And also just so that I can meet people because I get inspiration from hearing what everybody's working on. But like weekly calls, no, none of that.
Hmm. I'm still thinking about what we got to do to like get you to want for more things.
I don't know. Am I
Because I
being
mean, contentness. I feel like this contentness is gonna like kill production, which is not. somebody else on your podcast who's like a mental health person gonna be like, Teri, see, this is why you don't rest. You don't get enough sleep. Your health is not good. I get it. My apologies. But at the same time, like, can we put like a deadline on this contentment? Like, okay, we're gonna be content for about a good 2 years, maybe gonna be 3, and then we'll want for more. We're gonna find out. Like,
I'm at the tail end. I call it step change growth. Where you go up and then you kind of coast for a little bit because you're recharging, you're reinvesting in yourself, you're gaining new skills, you're getting what's required in order to get to the next level. So I'm in the plateau and I'm preparing for the next level. That's my next leap up, and it's holistic. It's not just this. It's also at Blavity. It's also as an executive, as a CEO, as an investor. I also have a bunch of investments in angel investments, in private companies. So yeah, I'm not like that complacent. Just resting.
and that's okay. It really is. Like, I'm honestly not knocking it because the
I
next
know.
3 months, well, I was on summer break.
Yeah.
And then the next 3 months I'm on like health break. Like, I
Mhm.
want to go like just take care of my health. So no, I'm not knocking it at all. But I'm like, okay, we gotta get you excited to like
I
make
think
the
being
most.
around other people who are reaching new heights is exciting. Like hearing you share those numbers is inspirational to me. And it's also, I believe that you're an incredible person, but I'm like, if I could just do 30% of what she's doing, that would be a next level. But part of it is refreshing and investing in myself. So that's where I'm going to start.
Perfect. I'm so
All
glad
right,
to see
y'all.
it.
Okay, Teri, how can people reach you? How can they connect with you? What should their next steps be?
Tradeandtravel.com is always the best first place. That's where you can find all of our courses and just more about us. So tradeandtravel.com. And then you can find us on YouTube, Instagram, all the places, Trade and Travel as well.
Amazing. Well, Teri, thank you so much for pouring into us today. And y'all, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you leave us a review and also go ahead and join my community if you guys want to follow along as I continue to do random things and invest in myself to get to the next level.
Thank you so much for your time, Morgan.
So fun. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Journey podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you leave a review and head to our Instagram and YouTube to leave a comment. I look forward to hearing how this podcast has made an impact on your own journey.